nice. Well, it's not intentional, but it works out very nicely.
You are in theme then. So Peter, we were talking about the drive-in. What movie are you gonna go see?
It was a really tough decision between Spider-Man Into the Spider-Verse or Hook, but I haven't seen either of those films on the big screen. So I was like, either way, it's a unique opportunity. But I ended up choosing Hook because I don't know when that will come to the big screen ever again. I feel like Spider-Verse has more of a chance of going back on the big screen, but Hook, it's just like, come on, that's a movie that's not very often on the big screen. So for Wednesday, I'm definitely doing Hook.
Yeah, same. I haven't seen it in probably over a decade. So I'm curious to see if it lives up to my memories.
I watch that often still on DVD or digital. I don't know. It's been quite recent where I've seen it, maybe within the past 2 or 3 years, but so I still have a pretty good memory of it. But it's just like, again, big screen can't compare.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, welcome to, I have no idea what day it is anymore, of Comic-Con. That means we're getting close to the end. It is Christmas in July for the Disney Parks vlog, though, so I'm bringing the Christmas spirit because we are 5 months away from Christmas. If you can believe that, that's where 2020 is at now. But yeah, we've got a lot of programming to talk about today. Again, you never know who will crash in. I'm Chelsea. With me, as always, we've got Kristen, we've got Peter, we've got Trina, Team High Voltage, representing Comic-Con at home, this special virtual edition of Comic-Con. And we're going to go over some cool stuff that's going on, including the masquerade from Comic-Con, which we've got somebody knocking on the door, guys. Who's here?
Enter ding dong sound effect. Ding dong.
Ding dong. I mean, I heard it. I don't know if you what's going on with you guys. What? Oh, look, it's Natalie.
Howdy.
Hello.
Look at that. Miss Natalie actually got into the masquerade. She was one of the 50 people that got picked for the masquerade?
Yeah.
Awesome. Congratulations on that, by the way.
Thank you. It's very exciting.
Why don't you tell everybody what your cosplay was that got picked?
One that probably no one knows. It's Padme's funeral outfit from Revenge of the Sith. So the one you see for maybe like 20 seconds, and she's in a coffin. But yeah, I made that one.
Awesome.
And many people know that one, that's for sure.
Yeah, it's a different one.
So tell us, like, with Comic-Con's masquerade in person, obviously it operates very different virtually. Like, what did you have to do to submit? How did they let people know? Like, how did it operate this year?
I've never really known anything about masquerades. This was kind of my first year where I felt, hey, maybe I actually have a costume that perchance would be acceptable. And I put a lot of work into this one and I was really proud of it. So I said, I'll give it a try. So I Googled, I think 10 days ago, masquerade, just to kind of see, and they were accepting submissions. So I had to email Comic-Con at a specific email and describe my costume, send over a few pictures, describe the work that I had put into it. And then they basically go over it and see if I met certain qualifications, certain standard levels that they look for in their submissions. And then I think maybe 5 or 6 days later, I got an email that said, congratulations, you're one of our 50 contestants. And from there, because it's all online and it's new for everyone this year, they moved it to Tumblr. And so from there, I got an email saying, open a Tumblr account. We're going to follow you on this, this account. And then we need you to make a post that we are going to kind of preview and make sure it meets our standards of what we want these posts to have. We were limited to 10 photos max, but we also could put in a video. So the video was 45 seconds of whatever we wanted to showcase. And there you can see mine right there, and kind of just show our costumes off to the best that we could for the judges to look at. So once I had put that all together, typed up a little explanation, I sent it over to them. And then I think 2 days after that, they emailed me and said, hey, it's good to go. These are the hashtags we want all of our contestants to use. We'll let you know when to post it on Tumblr so it'll go live. And that was actually this Tuesday, I believe. And then as soon as they went live, all the judges were able to access all the contestant posts and then make their decisions. And then, of course, the winners were announced today.
And yeah, it's incredible. And they actually had really great prizes for some of the winners too. Like somebody got a new serger and like a sewing machine, like beneficial stuff for people that are making their own costumes. It's what I love, especially you put this entire thing together during this quarantine time, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
It was like, so not only is this masquerade this year virtual, but like this was because everything had to be virtual. Cosplay. Yeah. I think is really amazing. And I don't know, but for those of you that haven't really gone into the details of this, but these are all sequins here and here on her shoes that hand sewn by Natalie. Thousands of sequins.
Yeah.
Oh my God.
It was ridiculous. The cloak is hand painted. And because it's velvet, the velvet soaks up the paint. So you can't just do one quick, wave with paint. You got to go over it 2 or 3 or 4 times and let it dry in between to get it to look like water, basically. So it was a lot of work, but you're right. It was quarantine. So in a good way, I was able to keep busy and focused while I was making it. So.
Awesome. So what's the next big cosplay for you?
Another Star Wars costume, of course. I'm working on an X-Wing pilot. I don't know, people really like the orange. So I thought, hey, why not? I'll do that next.
Nice. Awesome. Yeah, it's really fascinating. I went through some of the cosplayers from this year. I was like, and there's some people that just really went all out with like fur costumes too, that I'm just like, that's a lot of work. And then like commitment to wear that too. It's like extra heat. Like it's really incredible how skilled some of these people are. And I know you personally and what you do for a living, but like some of these people, I'm like, there's got to be one of these people that's like a frontline worker that's like working at a hospital and they're in their very few hours. This is like where they burn off steam and like they're doing these incredible things. And you're like, why are you not a costume designer? Like,
right.
Like the one guy who did a full Iron Man suit, like it's incredible. I was looking at some of the video and there was another, I don't know, it's from a video game, I think, but lit up. She's on stilts. It makes her like, 6 foot tall and gorgeous costumes. I was very impressed with everybody who was in it this year.
Absolutely. It's funny. So earlier, like this week, we were live and Kristen said, I figured out like the one thing I'm really missing about Comic-Con is like the random cosplay that like as you're walking between things, just seeing the cosplayers.
Yeah, it's definitely missing.
I had, and I'll ask you this question since you're more into this world. I was wondering, like, what is the cosplay of du jour that we would be seeing this year? Like, what's everybody doing?
Definitely stuff from Rise of Skywalker. I think you would have seen a lot of that. Stuff from The Witcher. Stuff from anything that's new, that just dropped, new TV shows, new video games. People like to get on it and, reveal it at Comic-Con. So a lot of people were very sad that couldn't happen this year. I mean, you could kind of post photos online, but it's not quite the same thing, not the same adrenaline rush you would get as having people actually see your work in person. So
and no pageantry to it.
Yeah, definitely. So I think everyone's kind of missing that because you put in all that work and all that money and definitely blood. I can't tell you how many times I've pricked my fingers or cut something accidentally. And then it's like, oh, no one gets to see it but me.
In conventions in particular, the cosplayers are just as much part of the show as going to a panel. Mm-hmm. It's almost like, can I have your autograph? This is so amazing. It's like, let me take a picture with you. You're a celebrity for like, you get your however much time of fame, your 10 minutes of fame, or how long you stay at the convention. If you're really popular, you have groups of people around you appreciating the work that you put in. So yeah, it's probably a little bittersweet to like, yeah, people got to see me online, but it's like, I could do that any day. It's Facebook, it's it's having a Tumblr account, but this sparked something in you, and then next year hopefully we can see some more.
That seems to be the thing that everyone's kind of saying, like, well, we weren't able to this year, but next year we're going to come back bigger and better and new ideas and
right. New
go
material hopefully.
Yeah. Oh, definitely.
Yeah, it's funny because when we were doing our own predictions of like what do we think the big trend would have been this year, we were all like stuff from Mandalorian.
Yeah.
Which you actually have another great cosplay from the Mandalorian that you also could have shown off at this time.
I probably would have been wearing that today. Yeah.
Oh, that's awesome.
But yeah, it is what it is.
Yep.
One of my favorite characters.
For anybody watching this at now or anytime in the future, if you want to follow Natalie, let's just scroll up to this beautiful Instagram page. This is Natalie's page. She has all sorts of amazing cosplays on here, from Handmaid's Tale to, obviously Star Wars, a lot of Jurassic Park. She's a big nerd. She also posts amazing stories about the progress as she's doing everything, including making face masks for like hundreds of people during this quarantine. I was like, so if you need a face mask or anything to, like talk to her. Occasionally she makes really epic like coins and patches and all sorts of fun stuff. And yeah, definitely give her a follow.
Oh, thank you so much. Appreciate it.
Of course. Awesome. Well, thanks so much for popping in for a few minutes, Natalie.
No problem. Thank you guys. Have a good day.
Yeah.
Have a good one.
Bye.
Bye. All right. That was cool.
That was awesome.
Yeah.
50. That's a small number for how many people were doing stuff.
Yeah, totally. Especially because this was open to people around the world that weren't even planning to go to Comic-Con this year, that like did not have passes, like anyone,
and had lots of time to work on it. Yeah,
that's totally.
Awesome. I opened my day today with a costume related panel. I saw Colleen Atwood did a live conversation about costume designing the fantastical,
which I did not know she was doing. At some point I texted Kristen, she's like, I'm watching this live with Colleen Atwood. I'm like, that's my favorite costume designer. What?
Yeah, I love her. And she said some really fun things, like fun stories. She's worked a lot with Tim Burton. And she talked about Edward Scissorhands, which I think was their first collaboration. Ooh. And there was a fun fact there. She told the story of how the Russian ballet basically saved Edward Scissorhands, like saved the movie. And that's because before there were a lot of tech fabrics, you couldn't really do superhero costumes very easily. And Edward Scissorhands' costume is kind of like a superhero costume as far as the fabrics go. And she couldn't find a tailor who knew how to work with these fabrics until she found this Russian tailor who had made clothes sort of like it for the Russian ballet, which was like key to the costume design. So Edward Scissorhands, as we know it, wouldn't have existed without the Russian ballet.
Wow, that's fascinating.
That's actually amazing.
Right? And then she talked about what she's working on now, which you Disney nerds will love, because she's working on The Little Mermaid.
Well, she does a lot of stuff with Disney in general, but yes, I heard that she was doing Little Mermaids, the live action with, I forget, who's playing Ariel? Hallie, why am I not coming up with her last name? We have a beautiful black Ariel, like woman mermaid. It's going to be great with what's her name from Suki from Gilmore Girls. Melissa McCarthy is Ursula. Yeah, that Little Mermaid production is going to be amazing. I'm really excited to see this. Guys, the doorbell's ringing again. We've got someone else popping in here. What's happening? Everybody's just cracking tonight. Oh my God, it's our new favorite person.
Oh, yay.
Dr. Sims, hello, welcome.
Hello, thank you guys for having me. How you doing?
We're doing great. How are you?
I'm well, a little tired. It's been a long day.
Yeah.
All of us.
It's funny because all of us are just home watching panels and I'm exhausted. Like, it doesn't make any sense.
I actually had to go to work today. So I was seeing patients, and so I didn't get to see my panel, and then people were telling me they were watching the panel. So I had patients telling me they were watching it because we did pre-record them. So I was like, oh, that's awesome. Okay, I gotta go now.
Yeah, it's actually, I was watching another panel and Kristen was watching yours, and she was like, you're going to love this panel. So when I finished mine, I put yours on, and you said something about how your job is no different than a regular doctor, but the difference is that you start with diet and lifestyle. And that's how I healed all of my autoimmune disease. And I immediately went, this is my new favorite person, and I already love this panel. Like
the title of the panel was a real hook. It was something like "Eye of Newt, Wool of Bat: The Science Behind the Magic and Spells."
Yes.
Just for everyone to just get on board with how exciting this is.
I mean, because I love it. I love fantasy. I love sci-fi. My parents are big nerds.
Awesome. They raised you right then. They raised you right.
I didn't even realize they were nerds until like later in life. And I was like,
wait a minute, were we nerds?
Nerds? Like, we watch Star Trek all the time. Like all the time. We had a family night where we watched all the sci-fi together. Oh, and wow. I just thought that was what every family did. I didn't realize it was different.
We sort of had that in my family. My family was very much, my dad loved Babylon 5. My mom loved Stargate. We all watched Star Trek together, especially Next Generation. Like, yes. we definitely had sci-fi night in my house.
We did. Oh, we did the Xena Hercules.
Yes. Like, yes. But so your panel, you broke down a lot of fantastical and magical potions, and looked at what the herbs and stuff they were using and what was real and if it actually would work or not. And the way you broke down The Witcher blew my mind. As in within the fantasy world, it actually does all of the things that should happen to Geralt. I was just like, but then like you were like, don't try it at home because you will die.
He's a witcher, all right, guys.
He is powerful and made to withstand that. You cannot do that. And it was really awesome researching that because I wanted to know. I'm like, well, what would happen? And as I started to research, I was like, whoever did this, they did really great research. And that's what I love about watching TV and movies is being able to see like, I'm interested in that. And so I'm like, oh, they got that right. Okay, good. You know, like you watch people do your job, you know, you watch your job on TV, you always are like picking at it like, oh, we didn't do that. Oh, that's not real. And so that's how naturopathic doctors are with herbs. We're just like, that wouldn't happen. Or yeah, actually would happen.
When you got to Outlander, I literally threw my hands in the air and was like, yes. And then like, I think if you do another panel in the future, you need to just do an Outlander panel.
That's exactly what I was thinking. That's why I had to do just a little. I'm like, she used herbs all the time, and I love that TV show. I just love it because of that. And it's just amazing because I'm like, oh my gosh, this is where our medicine comes from. This is where real medicine, like all medicine, comes from. But it's convenient to believe that we just came up with these ideas from like chemistry and drugs. But no, all the drugs usually are extracted from plants. We just patent them and create them because we try to find that one constituent that we feel is the healing power and then amplify it. And that's how we get drugs, but it all comes from nature. And so it's beautiful to kind of go back to that and see it, but still kind of have the modern day science. Cause like I always say, like, I don't want you to come to my office if your leg is falling off. Like, don't bring me your leg and say, fine, like, I'm not a witch. I cannot magically put your leg back together. Go to the ER, get some real drugs, knock out, let them surgically put it back on.
Yeah.
I love how you brought up the witchcraft bit because witchcraft is kind of like the original naturopaths, the original doctors.
I know.
And I thought that I was wondering if you did any research into that. Like that is basically, you are a modern day witch, right?
That's what people say. I think that what ends up happening is a lot of like women, and I love that it was like women leading the way of looking at these herbs and then creating medicines. And because that science was so advanced, people thought it was magic because they had no way to explain it. So you have these intelligent women being burned at the stake, being called devils, literally because they were looking at science and figuring out things that modern medicine at the time couldn't figure out. So I just love that. Like I love the women empowerment in that. And it's unfortunate that there was so much death during that time, but they paved the way so that we can like have a better understanding of herbs. And I love now that people are embracing that and they're embracing that, the love of natural medicine and like herbal medicine. I just love it.
That's awesome. Where do you practice? Where are you?
I'm in San Diego. So I'm right here, heart of Comic-Con. I live in downtown San Diego. So it's always awesome to be in the mix with everything. But Nourish Medical Center is where I practice. And that's in Sorrento Valley, just down the street from San Diego. And I love what I do. I enjoy, I have some potions actually now that I'm going to start producing under like just a potions title head because I do herbal medicine all the time, but because this is so popular, I was like, you know, I actually have these potions for my patients. I should just sell them to other people too. So I just started putting together, so you can actually find those. I'm going to put it on Instagram, and I'm going to put it on my website so that we can have like potions for love and for, you know, trapped wind. So if you eat a little too much haggis, you can have some.
If you want to follow her on Instagram, we've got her page right here, Dr. DJ Sims. I was like, and so you can find more of that information and when you post it as well. So make sure you go and give her a follow.
Thank you so much.
Yeah, that sounds so cool that you're actually putting everything together. I really, I think especially if you branded it in a nerdy way, there'd be a whole new market. Like you could actually have a booth at conventions where you're like the nerd doctor. You know,
nerds are going to be super powerful. I'm telling you right now, look out. Like we already are dominating, but now we're going to be super healthy too.
We're going to be, look, I got to get all my people healthy because that's the thing. You go around at Comic-Con and WonderCon and I'm looking around, I'm like, we're an unhealthy bunch. So yeah. I want to be able.
They also don't make it really easy for you to get decent food though while you're at Comic-Con, you know?
It's so bad. I had like all my snacks and then they're heavy to carry around.
Oh yeah. I have like a kitchen in my backpack that I'm like carrying around all day.
In 2018, I just went to one room with all my snacks and just sat there all day. I hunkered down in one ballroom in one hall. And I was just like watching everything, like all the CW, because I love like the Arrow and all. I just like, okay, I'm like, oh, Flash is next. That's great. I was like, I was watching TV. I had a big bag of popcorn. I had a blanket. It was great. I didn't even leave. I was like, no.
You were there with your 4,000 closest friends. You know, that was the only difference.
It was so wonderful. And that's what I love about Comic-Con. And that's what I miss is that you can walk in. I remember the very first con I went to was WonderCon. And I walked in and I was like, it's my birthday. I want to do this. I want to cosplay. I cosplayed as Aurora off of Star Trek. And I met her, Nichelle Nichols, and I took a picture with her. And I was like, I came from like sitting with her and taking a picture. And I walked away and none of my friends were there because everyone had to work that weekend. I was by myself. And these random women came up and they just fangirled out with me. They were like, oh my God, you saw her, you're dressed like her. Ah! And they screamed with me and gave me a hug. And they were just like, and I told them my friends weren't there. They were like, we're your friends.
Yeah.
And suddenly you found your tribe.
And I started crying. I legit started crying because they were just like, you need to fangirl with someone. We will fangirl with you, even though we don't know you. And I was like, I will never not go to a Comic-Con or WonderCon.
It's so funny because I think if that was the WonderCon just a couple of years ago, we must have just passed each other because Trina and I went and interviewed Nichelle in the booth she was at WonderCon.
I actually wonder why you guys look familiar. I actually might have seen you. Because I was there and I was literally dressed as her, like, and then I sat down and took a picture with her and told her how much I loved her, and then I like cried up to the corner. But I saw her; she kept sitting there and being interviewed. So I think I might have seen you guys.
Nice.
Small world.
It is a small world. It just keeps getting smaller. Well, thank you so much for taking a few moments and for blowing our minds today too. Like that did so much fun in that panel.
Thank you for watching and thank you for letting me on your show. I really appreciate it.
Thanks
yeah,
totally.
By. All right, we'll talk to you soon.
Take care. Bye.
That was awesome. That was awesome. I mean, it was great. And then to know that she's a nerd. She's just like us.
Yeah, she's just like us. One of us.
Gobbledygook.
Oh my God. Yeah, so I mean, like her panel was just part of my day for me. I had like a learning day. This was like my theme of Comic-Con today, where it was like not so much, oh my God, Marvel and DC, but like I sat through 4 space panels today. 4. And then also her herbal, like natural path panel that was magical as well, but like still. So I watched Cosmos Possible Worlds, which is premiering on Fox this fall for its 3rd season. I believe last season it was just on Nat Geo, and it keeps getting a little bit bigger and bigger. And the only reason why it continues to get seasons, I found out, is because of Seth MacFarlane. And Seth is an executive producer behind it. And he actually introed the panel and then turned it over to Neil deGrasse Tyson and crew.
And like science.
Right, exactly. And Jeffrey Oken, who is no stranger, he's been with the show from the beginning, and he's no stranger to visual effects. But every time I see him, I think, you look like Brent Spiner in Independence Day. Does everyone have a visual of the mad scientist right now in their head from Independence Day? Right? Like
Data with the lab coat, yes.
Yeah, the lab coat, the long hair, the glasses. And I got on my phone to like tweet this. And I was like, oh, I need to make sure I spell his name right. So I like Googled the guy and then found out that he was actually the inspiration for Brent Spiner to be a scientist in Independence Day, that it's actually based off of him. And I was like,
that's incredible.
Blown.
Yeah.
like if you haven't seen this guy before, go and look him up after this, like a Jeff Oken, O-K-U-N, and it's literally like dead ringer. It was pretty crazy. But then I watched the NASA panel because I was like, well, I just watched Cosmos, I might as well watch NASA. And then William Shatner was moderating this panel, and I was like, what? And Shatner just made it so much more entertaining because you had these like 2 astronauts and a chemist and somebody that's like high up in the space program that's more administrative, that they all spit at you these really, it sounds like Kristen when she talks about her work. It's very elegant, it's big words, it's jargon that no one can understand if you're not part of it. And Shatner just kept going, that's great. Now can you say it like a normal human being? So he was getting them to break it down in a way that everybody at home can be like, whoa, which was really cool. And I didn't realize that NASA is, I mean, we've heard talks about it for years, but their hard plan is to put people on Mars in 2028. It's in 8 years. That's nothing. And that they're planning to have boots on the moon again, a male and a female, in 2024. And before they get to the moon landing, they're gonna install a gateway that I think is going to eventually be in orbit around the moon. It kind of looks like the space station, but they're gonna have to build this gateway out in space. So it's like they're putting together, they called it like their own Lego spaceship kind of thing, that they've got the pieces and they're gonna just snap them all together. And I was like, and this gateway can sustain human life for 30 days. So before, they've had people go out into space for 1 or 2 days on these excursions. They're now going to have people out there for 30 days. And
scary but cool.
Right? I was like, in the meantime, they've also redesigned the spacesuit, because the spacesuit, everyone knows that giant spacesuit, and it's like a big balloon.
Yes.
You know? And there's not much mobility, so they've actually. People can bend over now, and like there's like it's pretty cool. So they showed some really cool stuff. If you guys want to learn more about what NASA is doing, go to nasa.gov/Artemis. That's the name of the current project, and you can see all of the cool stuff there. Or go back and watch the panel with Shatner, because it's William Shatner. And at one point, the chemist, I wish I remember her name right now, said Star Wars. She wasn't referring to Star Trek. She just brought up Star Wars, and Shatner was like, what? It was a fun moment. And so then later, like, Shatner referenced that moment too, and he was like, there's Star Wars and Star Trek, and like, you know, because it's Shatner. But then I went from watching that to The Right Stuff. The Right Stuff is a new show on Disney Plus, being brought to us by National Geographic, that is about 7 men in the original space program, including John Glenn and Sam Shepard and stuff like that. And it's the story of them, the people, while they're going through this program, but it's not about the program. So up until this point, all of the space stories we've had have been about the actual product of space, right? But so like this one's really cool because it's focused on the people. And what's different is apparently season 1, obviously it's 7 white men with their white families. And a lot of the program is white. And like they said, what they're looking at addressing in season 1, it's already filmed, is that how women were kept out of the program, and that that's a big part of season 1, and that they're going to really explore and get into that. And that for season 2, they're going to then expand into other people and dive into their stories, because they really want to get into the personal stories of these people. And they're going to look into like Ed Dwight, who was one of the African-American astronauts in that space program, and a lot of people don't realize. and Katherine Johnson, which we all know now from Hidden Figures and stuff like that. And so they have like a really cool plan of where this is going, of retelling history. And I went from that panel to like the opposite space story of For All Mankind on Apple TV Plus, which is what happens if Russia had beat us to landing on the moon first, and the trajectory of what would have happened there. And so they talked about recap season 1, talked about season 2, which is set in the 80s. And yeah, I had a space day.
That's awesome. I mean,
Yeah.
I love that learning is always becoming more fun because it's so important to be learning new things. And, you know, if you can make it entertaining as well, makes it easier and more accessible.
Yeah.
My day was not as learning filled. It was what was I interested in? What could I hit without being too overwhelmed? Because I definitely felt overwhelmed yesterday. My day started with Magic the Gathering, which is something that I promised myself I wanted to really look at. Mark Rosewater, who's like a lead designer for Wizards of the Coast for Magic the Gathering, was talking about their new set, Zendikar, though it wasn't really talking about that set. Most of his chat was about, we have this really big thing coming, a new booster pack. And he went into this detailed schematic of what this booster pack is going to be made out of. And I recommend that if this is important to you as a Magic the Gathering fan, definitely go watch it. I talked to some friends about it, and we all kind of agree that it's kind of like we're indifferent about it. We're like, okay, it's cool. You really didn't spoil anything for us. You didn't make anything super exciting. I was very underwhelmed. This is Wizards of the Coast we're talking about. They could have done so much more, and it was just very underwhelming for me. Then moved over to Constantine. Now, Kristen, we can talk about this because you saw it as well.
Yes.
It's Keanu Reeves. So, you know, you see Constantine, you see Keanu Reeves. I love the movie, loved it, still love it. I watch it often. You had a different point of view than I did. Mine was 15 years since the film. Let's nerd out and remember all the great things of us filming it, including like the idea, the filming, and then the aftermath. And towards the end, it was like one of the questions was like, did you guys ever talk about a sequel? And the director, Keanu, and all of them they were like, you know, we talked about it. And I felt like they were giving reasons of why I think a sequel will never happen, but you had a different point of view. So
I did. So I had 2 big takeaways from that panel. And the first that I thought was really interesting, first of all, I'm a huge fan of the movie. I own it on DVD. I was a fan when it came out. I watch it periodically. And the interesting thing that I took away is that it has been 15 years. And what has happened in the last 15 years is that comic book movies have just exploded.
yeah.
So this was a comic book movie before comic book movies were a thing. And one of the things that the creator and the director were mentioning, the producer and the director, was it seemed like they didn't really have a lot of people telling them how to do a comic book movie. So there wasn't that big studio telling them they had to do this and this, and there wasn't the pressure from the fan base. You know, the things had to be exactly how the character was in the comic books or something like that. So I think they were able to take some liberties and freedoms that you can't really do in a comic book movie today. And I thought that was great. Like, one of the things they were talking about was how the character Constantine himself wasn't blonde,
Yeah.
didn't wear the trench coat,
Right.
not, like some of these hallmarks. And I don't know that you could have gotten away with that today, quite frankly. I think there would have been an uproar from someone, whether it be the fan base or the studio execs, saying you can't do Constantine without a trench coat. And when I watched Constantine 15 years ago, I didn't know it was a comic book movie. Mm-hmm. I loved it because it had the fantasy element, which I've always loved, and I loved it for the story.
Right.
And I think they
the
were
world
really
that they created.
Yeah, the world. And they were able to capture those things in a way that I think couldn't be done today without too many cooks in the kitchen. Right. So that's the big takeaway. Well, the first big takeaway I had from that panel was how special that movie was given the time it was created in. And the second takeaway I texted you guys was that I really feel like Keanu Reeves would make an excellent spirit animal. Like someone in need of a spirit animal, Keanu Reeves.
Super humble.
Got another.
A geek.
What did you say, Trina?
Nothing. Just thinking out loud. Go ahead.
Oh, like super humble, a geek. You know, him being humble comes out especially because he knew the names of not just cast, not just directors, but he was like the grip. He was like, remember that guy? I don't even remember the name he said. And this is 15 years ago. He knew these people. And he was like, I couldn't have done it without this person. I couldn't have done it without that person. And it was just so nice to see that. And he was really comfortable just talking about this. And it was nice.
Also his enthusiasm.
Yes.
It leapt from where he was through the screen.
Well, he was like this most of the time. He was like, yes. I was like, oh my goodness.
I was watching that thinking, why doesn't he moderate panels? Because I've never seen him that energetic. I've never seen him that enthusiastic about anything except when he was shouting out the grip.
Right.
Like, okay, that's awesome. But yeah, he was just absurd. He might have been on drugs. I don't know, but it's the good drugs because he was just the happiest dude talking about that movie.
I'm definitely going to have to go back and watch this panel because you texted me that. And then we had a short, like 4-minute conversation between panels, Kristen, and you were like, he was so great. And it made me so excited for Bill and Ted. And then they like barely let him talk. Like he got
82 people on that panel. I'm like, what the frick?
Yeah, there was way too many people on the panel, first of all. And they focused on the new additions for the movie, which, okay, so since we're talking about Bill and Ted, we'll go ahead and bring this up real quick. So obviously, new Bill and Ted movie comes out. It says summer 2020 on the official poster. That's not true. It's coming out September 1st, but I guess September could be summer. It's towards the end of summer. We just found out it's actually, they've flip-flopped this date around. It was the end of August. It was the beginning of August. Now it's September 1st. It is coming out September 1st. It will be on demand and it will be in theaters. I was like, so you can probably go to your drive-ins and see it, and then you can also just watch it at home. And I'm glad they're giving us this movie. But the problem with everything that happened here was that they wanted to focus on these two. So the two girls that you see pictured here are supposed to be Bill and Ted's daughters. And the two of them were on the panel, and they were the majority of the panel. But then like I felt like they never really talked about the movie and really what's going on. Like obviously they have kids. And they hinted at some point the kids have to like save their father, but like that's all we got about it. And they were all like, it just felt very disconnected. And Kevin Smith moderating it had so much potential and like.
Right, you were really excited about that.
Right, I was really excited about that. So like I just kind of like I got bored with the panel. It didn't make me bored about the movie. I'm stoked to see this movie. I love Bill and Ted.
Same.
I was like, and even Kevin Smith said that, and he didn't mean this in an insulting way. He said the movie is adorable. That it is needed right now. It is warm, it is funny, it is everything you would picks up in the franchise perfectly. And that's high praise from Kevin Smith. That is really high praise.
Absolutely.
So I'm stoked to see it. I also did not realize that Dean Pariseau was directing, who directed Galaxy Quest.
Oh.
Writers. But he also wrote a Goofy movie.
Really?
Yeah.
Oh, okay. That's two movies that I like.
Right? I was just like,
or love. I should say love. I should say.
But I'm definitely gonna have to go back and watch this Constantine panel to see Keanu being all excited. And
when you're saying that there was, yeah, go ahead.
Sorry, I was going to say one more thing about the Constantine panel that I thought Kristen you might have mentioned was about the post-credit scene a little bit.
I didn't talk about that. They did show that.
Yeah. Because I think they did, being a superhero movie, I think the director said it was the producer, Aziz's idea, who came up with it. But there's a post-credit scene of Constantine, and it's like the first one. Right. In a superhero movie. And it was an afterthought. And they thought, oh, well, we got some extra money, some extra time. Let's do this post-credit scene and threw it up. And they refilmed, shot some scenes and put it in. It was like the first time anyone that did a post-credit scene. And now it's like so common. 2005, Constantine.
Yep.
Did it first. And I found that very interesting. I didn't think of it. I don't even think I knew that there was a post-credit scene.
And gonna say though that they weren't necessarily the first to do the post credits because we want to go back.
Superhero movie, superhero.
Right, but Ferris Bueller has the most epic post credit scene.
Yeah, because at the time we had X-Men coming out, we had Spider-Man out back then, and none of them had post credits.
We had shitloads of Batman movies.
Yeah.
Shitloads.
I love the moderator asked the question, so did you ever consider introducing other DC figures into this movie? And the Francis Lawrence and the producer were just like, what are you talking about, dude? Like, no.
Was not even an afterthought. No, yeah. And then was it Keanu that was like, well, we gave you Papa Midnight, we gave you Chad, we gave you
yeah.
But the better question was, did you ever think of being blonde? And Keanu was like, no.
Never. No, I think his answer was like never.
No. That's what I'm talking about, guys. Like if this movie was made today, someone would take issue with these things. Or these
of course.
Deal.
That's true.
Fans were so hard to satisfy.
Ferris would have a heart attack.
Yeah. That's what made that movie so special. And I'm so glad we got that panel today, even though there was not the announcement of a sequel.
Right. And then I also, really quick to finish that, talking about that they called it a PG-13 movie that got an R rating. I thought was very interesting because it's very true. And I think that limited the audience very much. And they said, why did that happen? Oh, because of the dark tones. And they're like, that's not a thing. That's not a rating thing.
Yeah, it's not a measurable quantity. It's like, but the tone.
Right. And it's like, I guess, basically, if you put demons or any sort of dark religion, it gives it an R rating immediately, which I found very interesting. So, talking about horror and dark tones, my last thing that I ended up watching was Antlers with Guillermo del Toro and Scott Cooper, I believe, is the director. I really love
that all of us so far tonight have had a moment of like, wait, what? Like the Comic-Con delirium actually really is here.
And I just watched it a little bit before coming on live. So I'm like, I even like, oh my God, my notes. First off, love Guillermo del Toro. Let's just put that out there. He's great. He is a big nerd, a major cinephile. Is that what I would say? He's just a consumer of cinema. He's like, I watch 3 movies at least at home every day with my family. And he's like, sometimes I'm watching 6. I just love watching movies. And he's talking about his favorite movies and inspirations. But one of the interesting things, without talking about Antlers first, because it was really good that the moderator, who was actually the same moderator of Constantine, I believe, mentioned, I'm going to open with some loose questions to try kind of just open the floor first, and then we'll talk about Antlers. And one of them's like, if you could direct a movie, what would be your next movie? And then Guillermo del Toro said, Mountains of Madness, which is an H.P. Lovecraft movie. And I'm like, yes, do it. H.P. Lovecraft. That's you. That has your name on it. You're ready to go. And then Frankenstein. He said Frankenstein, and I said, Guillermo del Toro, Frankenstein. I like it, and I think he'll be true to the book. He'll be, his creature design is fantastic. I'm just like, his version of the monster. What would that look like? Anyways, Antlers, a story about Indian folklore, the Wendigo, which is like this creature that represents greed and overconsumption and stuff. And I'm like, how much is that pertaining to like now, of just like overabundance and just taking more than you need? And I'm just like, this film is a horror movie, but also a statement, but without being too much of a statement, because that's what the director was saying. It's a message film, but it's not a heavy message film. It's creepy, it's folklore. I'm ready to watch it. They had some exclusive scenes. They had some exclusive interviews with cast. So they kind of started with that, and then they finished with like a little teaser trailer. So that was very well done.
Did you see the Wendigo? Did you get a shot of it?
I saw enough. There seems to be different shapes of it, because one of them is like this guy, just looks like a person that's just like kind of hunched over eating like corpses and stuff like that. Then the other one is like they're in the cave, and it's this gigantic monster, and it's disfigured, and it's got horns, and it's huge with arms that are like lumbering to the floor. And I'm just like, definitely Guillermo del Toro inspired. But obviously they didn't show enough, or they showed just enough It's like, watch the movie if you want to see the whole thing. So definitely excited for that movie.
Awesome. The only other thing that I really got into, which Kristen, you watched as well, was the Winona Earp panel at the end of the day, which was a really short and sweet. It was about a 30-minute panel. They had lots of fan questions, and they shouted out the fans that sent them with their Twitter handles, which was really nice of them. They picked really great questions, but that fandom, the Earpers, are really passionate and very smart. Like they know what to ask. It's not going to be the same things. It's great. And then they played games with them, and that it just felt the most like Comic-Con, and that cast is so much fun. And if you don't believe us and you don't know anything about Winona Earp, look up the cast in our YouTube videos alone from the past 4 years of doing stuff with them. Like, it's hilarious.
You really don't have to know anything about Winona Earp to watch this panel.
Yeah, it's true. They don't really even talk about the show. But the best thing that happened, also, if you don't know the show, is that they recapped the first 3 seasons in 5 minutes and literally perfectly recapped it. And then they give a sneak peek for season 4, which premieres tomorrow night on Sci-Fi at 10 p.m. 9 Central.
I thought was interesting, talking about ratings, they made the announcement that this season's going to be TVMA. And they talked, so what does that mean? And so they talked about that a little bit. So I think that's going to be interesting because it might shift the tone a little bit. They said they're still going to have the laughs and it's still going to have the same characters and the same heart, but they might be able to get a little bit more graphic.
Or dark tones.
Right. Maybe there'll be a demon.
But maybe they'll have demons.
There already was.
I was going to say there's been lots of demons and vampires and angels and yes.
So I thought that was interesting. But I enjoyed that panel. I thought it was a lot of fun. Trina, did you see any? I have some things I want to talk to you about today. Did you see any panels? Besides Constantine?
I just rewatched the panel from a couple of days ago. I just watched the Vikings one, which was
How was that?
Well, it was great, except for the fact it almost feels like it means it's almost over. We've only gotten through half of season 6. We're waiting for part 2 of season 6. But I don't know. That's a really intelligent panel, especially if you like listening to casts talk about how well they work together and how much everyone respects one another and how just gushing they were about the writer, who's the singular writer of the series. He writes every single freaking word, not 3 writers, just this one guy. And if you've watched Vikings, you know what a thoughtful and intricate and historically accurate plot and story it is. And it's just, and they had Travis Fimmel was there too, even though he's been dead since season 3 or 4. And Catherine, whose Lagatha died last year, but they were there too. But the panel was well done because the moderator interwove all the stories and brought up the fact that even though like Travis Fimmel's Ragnar Lothbrok character has been dead for like 3 or 4 years, he's still in the show. He's always talked about. His legacy lives on. You can see him and his actions living through the children, like Ivor the Boneless, and it was really well done. And I'm gonna be sad when that show goes. I'm really gonna be sad. And the fight scenes. Woo! They talked about the fight scenes. They're so good. Yeah.
I'm so big on. I'm sorry. Go ahead, Kristen. You had something to ask.
Oh, I wanted to ask Trina a question. If she has watched any of the Brave New World series in the Peacock Network.
Mm-hmm.
So I thought about you because
Peacock only launched last week.
Yeah. Well, okay. Well, I thought about you because it's Joseph Morgan's in it. Your guy from the originals that you've interviewed, I know, and you're a fan. And he was on a panel yesterday, the Brave New Warriors panel, and he talked a little bit about his character on the Brave New World, and it really got me intrigued. So today I watched that panel, and this is my new show discovery for the day. Is this show? After watching the panel, I am so down to tonight trying to figure out how to get this Peacock Network and to watch this show. That's how much it excited me, and it mostly centered on the cast and the creatives, like who they were, even more so than the story, which is obviously taken from the book that came out in the 30s. But the cast alone, so the creator is the same one he worked on The Killing, and I don't know if you ever watched the Flesh and Bone, the ballet series, but I love that. And he did Homecoming. And then the cast, it has, so Joseph Morgan's in it. And then it has Nina Sosaria from Killing Eve, His Dark Materials, and Love Actually. She's been everywhere lately. I feel like I've seen her on everything. And she's in it. And then Kylie Bunbury, who's in Pitch, which, you know, R.I.P. Pitch. That was one of my favorite shows a couple years ago. And Jessica Brown Findlay, and the cast just goes on. And it takes place in this world, New London, where everyone is happy. And then this guy comes in from, right? You can never trust that. So this guy who's the guy who played Han Solo in the recent Solo movie, he plays this guy that comes in from outside this idyllic world, and he sort of enters it, and he enters it with something this world is unfamiliar with, and that's emotions. So he comes in with all these emotions and really disrupts this world. And just that concept alone, in the scenes they showed, in the conversation between the cast, which is just spectacular. I am down. So the Joseph Morgan character, this is what I thought you would appreciate, Trina. He plays a clone. So there will be lots of Joseph Morgan.
Oh, nice. More than the hug.
Exactly. But the one character in particular is a clone who somehow taps into some sort of emotion where the others don't. And he started disrupting the system, because all the clones are sort of the bottom class, the worker drones. They have like the menial jobs that no one wants. But since they don't feel anything, they're happy doing it. So then at the end, they asked the panel this question. And this question really got me thinking. And I think it's a good question for everyone to think about. Like, what would you rather have? Freedom or happiness?
Such a loaded question.
Right? Every single person on the panel answered the same way, which I think is more indicative of the show than them thinking about it outside the show. But every single person on the show said freedom, because you cannot be happy unless you're free.
That's weird. I said happiness.
I know.
Debatable. We're all free. Are we all happy?
Right? Exactly. That's what I'm saying.
I think it's very debatable, which is why, again, I really want to watch this show. So, and I think that you would like it too, Trina.
Yeah, like something that was really fascinating, besides me obviously watching 3 panels that were about shows that are specifically about space, it reminded me that Space Force dropped on Netflix during quarantine. And there's this whole pattern of shows coming out right now that are just about space. But I feel like the other pattern is like everybody's really digging into these really like politically aware from the current times, like undertones, you know? And I'm not just talking about like civil rights and stuff like that, but like, I mean, there's been panels that are talking about addressing mental health and even alcoholism and addiction, and like just like some really powerful raw topics, and it's really awesome.
It's kind of inspiring to see. The other thing I wanted to mention to you, Trina, is I watched the Order season 2 panel. Have you seen the season 2 yet?
Nope.
Well, I think everyone will appreciate this. There's some fun cameos. 2 guys from 90210, Jason Priestley and Ian Ziering. So they cameo on this, and we were told the story of how the cameos came about, and they were already talking to Jason Priestley. And then last year at Comic-Con, one of the producers literally ran into Ian and started talking about this, and so that's how they both ended up.
The magic of Comic-Con.
Exactly, the magic of Comic-Con. So that panel was a lot of fun if you watch the show. And they were talking about after these 2 had the cameos, like what would be their dream cameos. And Catherine Isabel, who plays Vera, said she wants Cher to come on and be her mother. And so I thought you would appreciate that.
That'd be cute. Oh, I had one other thought about Vikings, which is one of the things that made it really interesting. Like I said, everybody's talking about how close they were as a team out there and how much they appreciated the director. The guy who plays Rollo, do you guys watch Vikings?
Not since the first season.
Well, the guy who plays Rollo, Clive, who plays Rollo, he was telling a story about the first couple, somewhere between episodes 1 and 5 of the first season. There was this director who he said we will not name because he's no longer with us, there was a scene where one of the Vikings was going to get executed and he had to kneel and someone's going to cut off his head. And the director wanted the guy to kneel down, put his head on a block and chop his head off. And everyone, actors, writers, they were like, no, that's not how Vikings did it back then. A Viking would stand up, look their execution in the eye, and they would slice their head up and blah, blah, blah. And they were arguing about this back and forth with the director. And the director literally said, it's just a TV show. And then he was gone. Because everybody wanted it to be as authentic as possible, especially because there were so many Scandinavian actors, including the guy who plays Floki, who's Gustav Skarsgård, Alexander Skarsgård's brother. So, and he was like, oh, hell to the no. It's like, no, you're not going to tell our Viking Norwegian story this way. And that's why that director is no longer here. Because everybody was like, as soon as he said, it's just a TV show, he's out. Because it's not just a TV show, it's history.
Wow. Awesome. Well, we are close to the end of our hour, so it's time to give a little bit of a shout to tomorrow. For me, tomorrow's really light. I'm honestly, like, I know we're not probably going to have a lot of big reveals to talk about in our live tomorrow. It's more going to be of like a wrap up of how do we feel Comic-Con at home went. And then also for those of you watching that really needed this break, you needed the mental break from reality, from what's happening with COVID and being in quarantine and everything else. How do you continue to find these bursts of inspiration? How do you connect with your geek tribe? So we're going to have some like tips of upcoming events and other things that you guys could be part of from anywhere in the world during this time. I was like, so we'll talk about that stuff tomorrow. But also in terms of Comic-Con programming, I've got two things that I'm looking forward to. It's the top kids authors come together, which also features Henry Winkler, the Fonz himself, and that should just be highly entertaining. And then at 2 p.m., a conversation with Nathan Fillion. That is the thing tomorrow. Nobody should be missing that. And Nathan's, it's not like the Charlize Theron panel where it's one-on-one. Nathan's bringing friends. So this should be good.
And it's not Comic-Con until you've run into Nathan Fillion.
Very true. Very true. What about you guys? Anything you're going to get into?
I have a couple, actually. The Goldbergs panel tomorrow. I love that show. I'm excited about. And because it's Sunday of Supernatural Sunday, even though there's not a panel this year with the cast and the boys, there's still a panel about a book called Supernatural Therapy. And it's actually a series of books. And I've been to panels with these panelists before. And I own the Harry Potter therapy book. So what these guys do is they take this fandom and they write the book in a way that you can sort of read through it and it helps you through your issues. And so I'm excited to see how they've interpreted the show and one of my favorite fandoms, Supernatural, in a way that, can help with maybe mental health.
I definitely think a lot of tomorrow will be me going back to some other panels that you guys saw that like I'll probably watch Constantine tomorrow, like things that like I missed that I'm like, you know what, let's watch some of that stuff. Peter, it's already fixed, but I was about to be like, you became a blue meanie, like your whole like lighting was blue and your face turned blue. It was really amusing there for a minute. What about you, Peter? Anything?
So Nathan Fillion, possibly because Alan Tudyk's going to be there too. But I was noticing there's this panel called Villains Were Misunderstood.
Oh, I did want to mention that because that actually features a lot of our friends.
Well, Connor, I believe.
Connor is going to be there as Hook, but my friend Chad Hatter is also going to be there. It's a lot of like big cosplayers coming as villains, representing villains in a different way, telling the villain side of the story.
Which is kind of like a theme, especially in Marvel. Thanos was thinking of, he wasn't just an evil man, he was trying to balance the universe. Warmonger had a point, or, that sort of stuff. I think that's the new theme with villains, that they are multi-layered. They're not just, before, in the past, there's the good guy, there's the bad guy, and a story. Now it's become, why is the villain doing what they're doing? And it's like important to know their backstory, which I think is pretty great. that's happening now. So I'm wondering what that's going to look like. I'm kind of reading the description here. They make their case of for what and why they do what they do and who they consider to be the real heroes and villains. So it looks like kind of like they're going to be acting it out as their character and representing their character, which I think is neat. So that's probably the big one that I want to see. I'll probably go into the exhibit hall because I still haven't gotten any Comic-Con swag. Like one thing.
You want the cat artwork, don't you? Jenny Parks, like.
It's not a bad idea. That Thanos one was really cool. There was a lot of stuff that I saw under, like, there was the little thumbnails, and I'm like, I should probably look at more of that stuff. But I'm not a big fan of posters or artwork or stuff like that. I like stuff, whether it's a plushie, a pop, or a game. You know me. If I can find out an exclusive game, which I found none, that's kind of what I want to bring home, or maybe some patches and pins and stuff like that.
Well, you know what actually releases tomorrow, but it's not Comic-Con. Hocus Pocus the game.
Oh, awesome. Which we did see what that looks like, which is pretty cool. Oh, she's gonna go get it.
It actually just happens to be sitting right here. This officially comes out tomorrow. Oh, it's green, so we're losing some of it. Which actually just makes it look really cool. The flames are like blue.
No, you can see through it.
It's made to look like the book, like her actual spell book in the game itself. But that comes out tomorrow if you're itching to buy something.
Yeah, so we'll see. Again, a lot of sauntering. Well, I don't think it's going to be panel heavy for me. I might watch that villains one. I do want to see that Twitch one. You guys were mentioning that there's a how to do your own Twitch stream or something like that. I'll probably look at that, which it came out today, but I'll probably watch it tomorrow.
And Trina, obviously you've got days to catch up on and things from today, maybe some stuff from tomorrow. What's at the top of your list to get into?
And the only things I really thought about for tomorrow would be the Looney Tunes.
I did see that.
I don't know if they're going to be bouncing between the old Looney Tunes and the new Looney Tunes. I'm not too keen on the new Looney Tunes. But, yeah.
It is being presented by HBO Max, so it could go any which way.
Heavily biased, but my brother has been watching the first half of it and he really liked it. And the reason why he stopped was because he didn't want it to be over so soon. Because I think the episodes are as short as the original stuff. Yeah. So
it shouldn't be much longer.
So
then there's the psychology of Black Panther.
Oh, that could be cool. Sweet. Well, thank you guys once again for another live. So that's 5 down, one last one to go. Tomorrow, for those of you watching, we will be at a different time. We will be at 5:30 instead of 7:30, so 5:30 Pacific. And it'll be our recap. We're going to talk about the best of Comic-Con at home, the worst of Comic-Con at home, whatever happened on Sunday in case, some jaw-dropping, exciting announcements come. Maybe Nathan Fillion decides he's running for president. Who knows?
Or Alan Tudyk running for president.
Or them together as like president and vice.
Power team.
Right? I would do it. I mean, honestly, I still want Kiefer Sutherland for president. Like, Designated Survivor really sold me on him. So, but yeah, I was like, and we're also going to have some special guests we're having some actors tomorrow that are going to pop in. We won't say who. We'll surprise you guys with that to talk about their shows that happened at some point during this week. And it's going to be a lot of fun. So definitely come back tomorrow, 5:30 p.m. Pacific. Subscribe to our channel. If you have any questions, if you want to geek out with us, leave a comment down below. And I think that's it. Am I missing anything, guys?
That's good.
I think we're good to go.
Yeah. We're delirious, so it sounds great.
Yeah. I literally, I think Kristen, 3 times today, you're like, wait, it's Saturday? And I was like, yeah, I have no clue anymore. So somebody called me and said, today's the 24th, right? And I was like, I have no idea. I was like, why are you asking me that? Look at a calendar.
I have the date on my phone and I was still asking people what day it was.
Yeah. Yeah. Awesome. Well, seriously, thank you guys. Thank you to our guests tonight, Dr. DJ Sems, That was great to have you. I loved meeting you and discovering your panel today. Everybody go watch that panel. It's called Eye of Newt and Wool of Bat. And fun. I mean, it's already a fun title name, right? And then Natalie, congratulations on making the top 50. That's incredible. I'm sorry that you didn't win, but it's okay because you still got a great acknowledgement and the world got to see your cosplay and they wouldn't have otherwise. And so yeah, until tomorrow, everybody. Peace, love, marshmallows, live long and prosper. Zoinks.
Happy Christmas in July.